All right, Bossing Up Overcoming OCD listeners, I have a very special guest, Miss Carla Litto. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in relationships, not only your romantic relationships, but those toxic dynamics in your relationships. She helps her patients break free from all of the nonsense. She has a tell it like it is approach. She helps clients spot red flags, avoid emotional traps, and outsmart manipulative partners. She's the author of Outsmarting Egomaniacs: How to Respond to Narcissists and Master Manipulators. That sounds so exciting. This is a practical guide for anyone looking to protect themselves from gaslighting, emotional abuse, and relationship scams. And you guys, the psychological cons we see in TV dramas, they're happening in real life every single day. So, Carla, thank you so much for being here. It's such a privilege.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to write a book?
I've always wanted to write a book, even before I became a therapist. As I was developing my expertise in this area and seeing more and more clients struggling with someone in their lives who meets the description of narcissistic personality disorder or just narcissistic traits, I realized, oh, there's a book in there. This is a topic so many people want to explore and understand better. I accumulated so many cases, stories, and even my own personal experiences, and thought I could write a book that helps more people than just the people who come to me for therapy sessions. Honestly, it's the book I wish I could have read when I was younger before I became a therapist.
Yes.
Someone just telling it like it is and giving it to you straight. And yeah, I was just excited to put a book out there that's easy and fun to read, but still has all the information you need if you're dealing with someone like this.
Just like OCD, it seems like narcissist is one of those buzzwords. People take it out of context. Do you see that?
Everyone's a narcissist. If someone hurt you or did something you
Yes.
don't like, they're a narcissist. Maybe they're just a jerk. Maybe they're not even a jerk. They just let you down.
Yeah, it seems like every divorce case, whether it's wife or husband, my ex is a narcissist. I'm like, okay.
When I hear that word, sometimes it even makes me think like someone in this couple might be a narcissist. Now I'm not sure which one it is.
So true.
Narcissists are often projecting, and they're always projecting onto their partner or the person that they're in conflict with.
Wow.
Who knows who the narcissist is?
Now, statistically, narcissism is more common in men, right?
Statistically, it might be more easily identifiable in men where, it's arrogance and grandiosity you might see more in men. Statistically, yes, although it's not clear.
My OCD patients, they're women, and part of their obsessions and their worries and their fears is that they're going to become a narcissist or that they are already, in fact, a narcissist. So they do all these compulsions of, did I ask them if they were okay? Did I text them back? Like they're very much in their head about trying to not be perceived as a narcissist. And if they do anything, quote unquote, selfish, they're in a tailspin. So, with that being said, what are those genuine narcissistic traits?
I have a lot to say about what you just said. First off, if you're even questioning whether you're a narcissist or not, you are not a narcissist, because narcissists never put that into question. They don't self-reflect, and they're not trying to be a better human. They're just trying to look better. So if you're really concerned about what kind of person you are, you're not a narcissist. I can tell you now.
And most of them, their friends are giving them that advice. I completely agree. If you're worried about being a narcissist, obviously you're doing some insight and some
So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I hear this. OCD, as I understand it, is an anxiety disorder. It's classified as an anxiety disorder. You're having anxiety about yourself and your social interaction. This is OCD. This is social anxiety. People with narcissistic personality disorder don't have social anxiety because they don't care. They literally do not care how they come across. In fact, the concern about how they come across is so non-existent that they have no awareness of how they come across because they don't care about how they come across. It's the opposite end of the spectrum of how am I being perceived? How am I being received? How is this person feeling? What kind of experience am I giving other people? That is so other end of the spectrum than narcissism.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, that helps a lot because if these ladies care, they're not even going to think twice, is the way it sounds.
They take
They're,
what they need. They don't worry about, was I thoughtful in this interaction and giving
mm,
someone a good experience? They're thinking about, I'm taking what I need and I'm going to justify why I need it. Now I care how I look. So I have a whole justification on why I deserve these things that I'm taking, stealing, robbing, whatever. But they don't care how they leave people feeling in their wake.
wow.
So that's a big distinction. The other reason that people with OCD might find themselves preoccupied with
Mm,
is my behavior, narcissistic because of my behaviors. If that
mhm.
thought process is going on, the other thing that comes to mind for me, and I mentioned this in one of the chapters in my book, there's the control factor. In my chapter, I describe different types of narcissists, and one of them is the
Mhm.
control freak. Narcissists are very controlling. Now, obviously, with OCD, there's a control element, but it's a different kind of control. And we have to
Yes.
make the distinction between power hungry control and the kind of control that is coping with anxiety. People with anxiety and OCD cope with OCD as being an anxiety disorder. One of the ways you cope with anxiety is to try to control events. So it's like, I'm preoccupied with what's happening in the future. I'm scared of what's going to happen. What can I control so that I'm not feeling like this outcome is out of my control?
Right.
And that's a very different type of control than what narcissists do. It's important to make that distinction between wanting to have power over other people and wanting to control situations and events in order to regulate your anxiety.
Completely agree. So, with the different types of narcissism, does this kind of relate back to what they're needing? And that's how you formulated their themes? Or how did you different types of narcissists?
I did create different like archetypes to make it, as I was trying to make it as easy as possible for a reader who knows nothing about psychology or to understand the book. I wanted them to be able to immediately identify their experience. I explained we're not putting people in boxes, and the person you're dealing with might look like all these people. But maybe you're dealing with a control freak or a drama queen or a womanizer. So he's probably not a narcissist, but he is a womanizer. I wanted people to be able to just immediately connect to their experience and have a chapter that's exactly what's happening to me. And here's how I can deal with it. So we're not worrying about whether they're an actual narcissist or not.
Mhm.
But if they have narcissistic traits and they're hurting you or the relationship is toxic, this is what's happening. This is not healthy. It is abusive. And here's what you can do. Because so many people today are preoccupied with, is this
Mhm.
narcissism? And I think it matters less if they're an actual narcissist and more, well, are they doing these things? Well, okay, so what do you want to do about it if they're doing those things?
Exactly. What are the strategies? Because just having the label is not going to help you have a healthier relationship.
Right, exactly.
So, in your book, you're trying to empower the reader to use strategies or take action, protect
Yeah.
themselves in some way.
And it's not arguing and engaging and getting pulled into the ring with the narcissist where they just blast you with more manipulation tactics. That's one important piece, but also setting boundaries. And boundaries don't obviously work very well with narcissists. We'll make that clear. But as I explain later in the book, this is your journey to self-empowerment and to discovering what you have control over and what you can do. The more self-empowerment you have and the more you have control over, the more you can see what's in front of you and
Mhm.
evaluate for yourself whether you want to stay or go. But if you're not taking control yourself of what you have control over, it's funny, we're talking about OCD and we're talking about control. And I keep stressing in the book, the only realistic form of control is self-control. You cannot control other people. When you stop trying to get them to change and you focus on what you can do, you see what's in front of you and you make a decision for yourself if this is something you want to hang around and continue to accept or not. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, that's all you have control over.
Even with the traits of narcissism, there is this spectrum, if you will, of severity.
Absolutely. It's a personality disorder when it's so severe that it's getting in the way of your ability to function and have relationships. Some people just have these traits. If they're able to recognize it and try to improve and acknowledge, okay, sometimes I can be controlling, or I've been self-absorbed in the past and I want to be better about that, or whatever it is
Uh-huh.
they're working on. That doesn't make them a narcissist. It makes them maybe emotionally immature. We all have some of these traits at different times in our lives, especially earlier in our lives while we're still growing.
Yes. Yes. I hear the teen years is like,
Oh,
for the
yeah.
average person, the peak of narcissistic tendencies.
Children and teenagers are by nature, because of that stage of development, are narcissistically oriented. And that's why we can't really
Yeah.
diagnose someone with a person until they're early to mid 20s when their brain is fully developed. They're going to be egocentric. They're going to be all these things that might look a lot like narcissism. But people who aren't narcissists, they grow out of this. And people who are narcissists, when you have the disorder, the personality disorder, not only do you not grow out of it, but it gets increasingly worse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do you explain gaslighting to a new patient that has no idea she has been gaslit in her relationship?
Yeah, that's a manipulation tactic that's been so popular and people talking about a lot because it's so common. What narcissists and manipulators do when you talk about your experience or lodge a complaint or make a criticism, they won't go there. They put it back on you, shame you for even bringing it up, or tell you that what you experienced, saw, or heard is not true. That way, you start to question yourself, and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes this crazy making experience of who's the crazy one? Maybe I'm crazy. And you start to question yourself.
Makes you second guess reality.
And
Yeah.
they make you feel so stupid and shameful for bringing it up
Mm.
because they don't want to be questioned. Anytime you feel like someone will not take in your experience or listen to your feelings at all and gets mad or defensive or shuts you down when you bring anything up that shines a light on them, that's an indication that you're dealing with someone narcissistic.
Oh, wow. Have you noticed that with a narcissistic person, they typically have a codependent partner?
Yes. That's the most common dynamic is a narcissist with a codependent caretaker empath. Yes.
Have you seen that Hulu documentary called The Devil in the Family?
No, but that sounds like one I need to see.
Okay, so it's about Ruby Frankie, and she was.
Oh, the Ruby Frankie story. I know all about
Yes.
that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go with her example because I think the husband sounded codependent. Obviously, we can't diagnose people we haven't treated, but
Right.
it seems like Ruby showed a lot of narcissistic traits. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that level of
Yeah.
abuse and
Yeah.
the power over her children to the point of starvation and physical harm. It was really sad. Yes,
Yeah.
and there are plenty of narcissistic women. It's not just men. There are narcissistic women out there, and they're
Mhm.
hurting men. And I've had a lot of male clients too coming in like really emotionally distressed over how a woman has completely turned his life upside down.
In the Frankie family, what could the husband have done to help protect the family from this abuse that eventually happened?
Yeah. So I followed the case on News Nation, the news report. I love
Yes.
Ashley Banfield.
So
Yeah.
I'll give you some context.
Yeah.
They're showing these clips and she's trying to do these selfie things. She's getting all huffy puffy with him. He
Right.
was like, I don't know what you want from me. This
Right.
even happened with their oldest son, where he's like talking. She does the huffy puffy stuff. And even the kid was like, I don't know what to do. That was so bizarre and sad and all the things. The husband and the son were having the same experience with her in those selfie video moments. Then the husband's like, she had the camera all the time. I was uncomfortable with it. And doesn't sound
Right.
like he ever.
They had no voice.
Yes.
We're just following her command. And then it sounds like they understood that if they didn't follow her command, that there was a price to pay, that the punishment was
Yes.
severe, that the easiest thing to do is to just go along with her crazy program. Now, that's very typical in narcissistic relationships and narcissistic families where the
Mhm.
narcissist is leading some kind of crazy operation that everybody has to participate in. And most people don't take a stand because it feels easier to just go along than protest and pay a higher price. What they don't realize is that every time you acquiesce to
Mhm.
somebody like this, they become more entitled. They do more and more. And so you're giving them permission to take more control over you and invade your boundaries more and more. So that's why it's
Yes.
important to set your boundaries from the start. Because if you tolerate a lot of nonsense and then later you're trying to set boundaries and stick up for yourself, you've already established a relational history of this is what
Uh-huh.
you're allowed to do to me. And it's a lot harder now to enforce this new dynamic of now you can't. The narcissist doesn't understand that
Yes.
and keep being able to do that.
But the final straw was Ruby told the husband that they needed to separate and to not contact her nor the kids until she said so.
So now the kids are alone with the abuser and he followed
Yes.
along with this.
Yes.
Wow.
And so that's when things really went downhill and got really bad. Now, it was probably really bad behind the scenes and off camera anyway, but yeah, it was disturbing.
It looks incriminating for him that he's tolerating, allowing all this, but also when you look at abuse, male or female, and it looks more confusing and hard to believe when the female is the perpetrator. But in reality, this is what abusive situations look like, where someone is completely stripped of their voice. They feel totally
Yes.
powerless and they just
Yes.
don't know how to go up against the narcissist. It's a battle you just won't win.
Let's say in that type of dynamic, so toxic, the other person's very narcissistic. How does the victim find their voice or start to feel confident enough to do
Yeah.
something about it?
Yeah. There are a lot of layers here in general. I keep stressing non combative firmness in my book because when you set your boundary, if you sound emotional, if you are yelling, if you are hysterical or you're crying, they're going to point to you as the crazy person. Look at you, you're a mess or you're out of control or this is why nobody likes you. Your power is sometimes your silence. That's your power. But sometimes when you're standing up for yourself, your power is you're not getting rattled, right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
want to see you work up a sweat. They want to push your buttons. They want to engage with you, fight with you, and find your weakness and use that against you. So you just calmly, firmly state your boundary. No, I'm not going to leave this house and separate myself from the children. In a situation like that, you have to get the court involved. Custody is a legal matter. But
Yeah.
whatever it is, you state your this is what what I'll allow, this is what I'll do, I won't do, calmly. And this
Uh-huh.
enrages the narcissist, of course. But the thing with boundaries is that when you set a boundary, you're telling someone what you need. You're not controlling anybody. So with narcissists, it's like this power struggle of you're going to do what I
Yeah.
say. No, I won't. But you're not trying to get the narcissist to do anything when you're setting a boundary. You're simply saying what you will or won't do. And then they have a set of
Got
choices.
it.
They
Yeah.
can respect that or not. And if they don't respect it, now you have a new set of choices, which is then I'm not going to put up with this and I'll go. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody always has a choice every step of the way, but you need to state what you need calmly and firmly without letting the narcissist see you working up a sweat. Because once you're emotional, that's when they have more control over you.
Yes, you've become vulnerable and they are going to capitalize on that. Like we don't make the best decisions when we're in that fight or flight mode.
Right.
I bet it takes a lot of practice, right?
Yeah.
In therapy and then just rehearsing and trying to get the confidence up.
I say it like it's easy.
Yeah, it must feel incredibly uncomfortable, to step into that space of setting a boundary with a narcissist when you haven't done it up to that point.
You can
Imagine.
make threats. One of the things I recommend, let them make their threat. Just don't look shaken by their threat. Just say, okay, go ahead and do that. That's on you. That's what you think is the right thing to do. You go and do that. Well, I'm going to tell the kids that you're okay. You want to
Yes.
turn them against the parents? Let's see how that works out for you. You're not hurting me. You're hurting the kids, but go ahead. Let's watch you do that. So
Ooh,
you
yeah.
don't look moved by their threats. That
Mhm.
kind of strips away their power. Narcissists make more threats than they actually.
More bark than bite.
Yes. And I shouldn't say that casually because, of course, there are some really disturbed narcissists out there who do actually do horrible things.
And intimidate.
Yeah, but a lot
yeah.
of them make threats. I'm going to sue you or I'm going to tell this person
Yes.
this or that. And it's okay. Why don't you go ahead and do that? And if you feel good about yourself, when you go to bed at night, good for you. Go ahead. That's the best way to handle it.
Yeah. And a true narcissist does care how they come across.
Yes. That's other advice that I give. Sometimes you have to press their image button and remind them of how something's
Mhm.
gonna make them look. You can't get them to do anything. You can't change, but
Mhm.
sometimes you need them to do something, not do something or do something because it could cause damage. I'm gonna tell the kids you're a horrible mother. You're free to do whatever you want. Let me remind you that when parents talk badly of other parents, it makes the kids not like the parent who's doing the shit talking. Just saying. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Mhm.
It's gonna make them think badly of you, but go ahead. Or everybody knows these days that co-parents have to talk nicely of their ex-partner. That's better for the kids. Everybody knows that. If you still want to badmouth me to the kids after you've researched it, you go right ahead. But
Yeah.
you remind them it's going to make you look ugly. But do what you do. You go ahead. So you're never trying to control them, whether they're trying to control you or not. You're never trying to control them.
Carla, this was a lot of fun. Very much appreciate your time and expertise. And where can they find your book or find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Carla Litto Therapy. My website is carlalitotherapy.com. My book can be found everywhere books are sold.
Awesome. Well, I will put it in the show notes for everybody. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.